Today, I want to talk about my all-time favorite manga. It has a tendency to fly under the radar for most people I meet in the community, but I'd highly recommend it to anybody because I feel like it's on par with many of the greats. And that series is Eyeshield 21, a Shonen Jump manga series that started in 2002 and ended in 2009 with 333 chapters in 37 volumes, which is a pretty good amount. Not too crazy high like One Piece or Fairy Tail, or too low, giving you hardly any time to know the characters like a one-shot series. Sort of like Fullmetal Alchemist, I guess. Eyeshield 21 was written by Riichiro Inagaki and illustrated by Yusuke Murata, and while you likely won't recognize the writer, you might think you've heard the illustrator's name before. He's the guy who draws the One Punch Man manga, based off a webcomic created by One. The anime got a huge amount of attention in 2016 when it came out, and it's pretty well known in the community for being a really popular classic anime superhero parody. Murata obviously grew a lot as an artist over the illustrating of Eyeshield 21. As you can see, it goes from this in the early chapters to this. But first, I want to talk to you about why it's so underrated. There are two major strikes against this series that quickly turn people off before even giving it a chance. The first one is the anime. A lot of manga series are old and have animes that are made around that time that aren't really blow your socks off incredible, but they can still hold up and be enjoyable. The Eyeshield 21 anime is not that. While of course animes try to make a series more child-friendly, one of the main characters of the series is constantly seen swearing and toting around a gun, and that's what makes him an endless source of amusement. So to see him and some other things just watered down was a disappointment. The animation is also not that great. The characters look a million times better in the original art than their animated counterparts. Just look at this. Look at this and compare. These are the same character. I'm not making this up. Let's put it this way. I'm a huge fan of Eyeshield 21, and I've read the series at least 3 times now, all the way through. And even I couldn't make it through the anime. It was just too painful for me to bear. The second strike against it is probably what you've concluded by now from the screen caps. It's a sports series. Sports series aren't for everybody because they're typically much more down to earth and not nearly as fantastic. There are no superpowers or exotic world to enhance the setting. Everything lies on the back of the characters, their ambition and their growth. I personally adore sports series because it feels like a more realistic adventure story, and it just pumps me up like nothing else will. If I ever feel useless or like I can't accomplish anything, if I read a sports series like Slam Dunk, I get really hyped up. One con of it, though, is that they take the time to explain how to play the sport in the early chapters, which is a little bit boring, but also really helpful to understand exactly what's going on. This can also include, the really in-depth stuff you never expected to learn about a sport, but if you ever do watch it, in real life, you'll understand it so much better after watching a sports series. But that's not the only problem. Even if you don't mind sports series, this one's about American football. And not only American football, but Japanese high schoolers playing American football. It's not like Yuri on Ice, where right away you get a national sense of the sport. It's literally called American because it's not a Japanese sport, or even one you would commonly see or really expect them to be that amazing at in comparison to the country of origin. Now, this point was what actually kept me from originally considering Eyeshield 21 at the start. Occasionally, I would see pictures of Hiruma and go, wow, that guy looks cool, and so many people seem to like him. Maybe I should look into and read that series. But then I saw it was based on football, and I just thought to myself, there's just no way. It's football, damn it. And while, yes, it is possible to get me to sit down and watch a game, maybe around Thanksgiving time with the family, I'm not really enjoying it. I'm not invested in it. And to be honest, most anime fans probably aren't necessarily rabid football fans. That's just not that far of a stretch. With those two reasons in mind, it's hard to even give the series a shot if you're just looking at it from a distance, especially if you see the initial chapters where the art isn't that great. If it doesn't even have half a decent anime and the basis is kids playing American football, a lot of people would write it off. But hold. First, let me explain the plot. Sena Kobayakawa, I have never said that right in my life, is just entering high school at one of the most basic schools in the area that really doesn't require much in terms of brains, and that's Daemon High. He's the farthest thing from assertive and has been bullied most of his life, but his one talent is that he is really fast. Instead of using his crazy speed to run away from the bullies, he uses it for them because he can't say no or stand up for himself, so he runs off to buy them drinks or buy them whatever they want and then comes back. And after shortly attending school, his speed is noticed by the captain and quarterback of the Daemon American football team, Yoichi Hiruma. Sena, being the pushover he is, can't say no to someone so imposing. Not that Hiruma will let him anyway, so he joins the team as a running back and takes up the alias Eyeshield 21. So he can maintain that identity by wearing a colored eye shield on his helmet, and that leaves a good portion of his face very difficult to see, so it's hard for someone to tell that it is him. The reasoning behind this is to keep other athletes in the school from recruiting him, as is an idea by Hiruma, while also letting him discover his potential away from the overprotective eye of his childhood friend and older sister figure, Mamori and Zaki, who wouldn't dare allow him to get hurt doing that kind of sport if she knew it was poor, unassuming Sena who needed to be washed over and protected. While Eyeshield 21 is his true role on the team, Sena doubles as a manager along with Mamori so she can watch out for him, because she assumes that he's being bullied by Hiruma and that's why he chose to become a manager, and the other constant person on the team is Ryoken Kurita, who is the gentle, strong giant and center of the Daemon Devil Bats. They're an extremely weak team with very few dedicated members that only includes Hiruma and Kurita, and now Sena, so they've been knocked out of tournaments easily in the previous year, but they still aim for the Christmas Bowl, which is the High School Football League Championship for all of Japan. As the series progresses, they find more teammates, get stronger, and work up motivation to achieve that goal, with each of them growing in more ways than one. To me, there are three things that I love most about Eyeshield 21, and that is the story, the comedy, and the characters. The story is typical for sports series. Characters work hard, they get stronger, and they overcome obstacles to achieve their goal. It's a simple premise, but somehow during each football match you get excited because you don't know what's going to happen. You're not sure how strong the enemy team is, or if the skills Daemon has will be enough. And it's honestly such a joy to see characters reach for their personal and team goals, struggle with things you wouldn't expect beyond just the scope of the game that they're playing. Eyeshield 21 is so hard to put down, though. I literally had to stop myself after chapters because I knew I would finish it way too early if I kept up my reading marathons, but the action hardly ever slows down. Even in between games where you'd expect some relaxing, the moment a game is done, you see there's an even bigger challenge waiting that they have to prepare for as soon as possible. There's hardly ever a lull in the excitement and rarely a dull moment. Not to mention, each arc is so much fun because it's usually in a tournament mode, and it's amazing because you have the chance oftentimes to get a glance at the opposing teams and learn their characters. And they actually occur later, so it's not as if you face the team and will never see them again, because there's hardly any throwaway characters, so getting attached to someone is never a punishment. Being able to get invested in characters on the enemy team makes the showdown all the more exciting. Like, you want to see what happens when this running back is against Sena, or if Hiruma can come up with a strategy to beat this character that we've had a chance of seeing at a glance before the game has even started. It really ups the stakes and makes you feel like it's not just completely centered around the main team in the series. My one complaint on that matter would be that the final arc wasn't nearly as intricate and exciting as the previous ones in regards to understanding the enemy teams, but it was still a fun ride. The comedy is also completely hilarious. I was laughing at least every 5 pages with running gags with most of the characters. The most outrageous aspect is Hiruma, who, in all meanings of the word, is intense and insanely smart character, but he's also the funniest the series has to offer. He goes out of his way to try to intimidate everyone, but the more you read, the more you see he's actually really inspiring, even when he's threatening to shoot people and putting his teammates in comedic, but not really serious, danger. Even the side characters are so funny. Not even only the ones on Daemon's team, and that's not even in a comic relief only sort of way. Mizumachi is introduced as an intense rival and is really an ace on his team, but he's also completely hilarious with his own running gags, and there's just so much to laugh about. It's hardly kids' humor either because Hiruma is constantly swearing and all of his nicknames have fucking in it. At least, in the right versions, not the actual books you buy, because I got some of those and they censored a lot of stuff and made me very frustrated. And now everyone says, damn, not my favorite. There's actually a lot of drama in scenes that you feel the tension, but when they throw in some sort of comedy, it never feels out of place or overly obnoxious. The tone is just right that even in the most tense and nerve-wracking of moments, Eyeshield 21 can still conjure up a laugh, make it exciting, but also funny. And the third, final, and most important point that ties all of this together are the characters. I personally love the characters so much. Each of them have their own unique take on why they are there, what's their motivation, and let me list a few for you. Raimon Taro, aka Monta, was a baseball player who met Senna on accident, but Hiruma saw his amazing catching ability and tried to recruit him onto the American football team. He said no because he made it clear his dream was to be an amazing baseball player like his hero, Hanjo, but there's one big problem. He got amazing at catching, but he still can't throw to save his life. It's comedic levels of bad. When he tries to toss a ball, it can go in the complete opposite direction. And to play outfield, you can't possibly catch everything, so you've got to run and grab the ball to throw it back to the pitcher. If you can't do that, or if you can't bat, and if all you can do is catch, you won't go far in the sport. That's pointed out to him in the fact he didn't make the first or the second team, he made the absolute worst team. So, in that, he realizes that the American football team might be the best way to channel his ability. It will put a new spin on his dream, and seeing that his hope for baseball has come to an end, he has a chance to be a catcher he wanted in this sport. So he joins and really grows probably just as much as Senna throughout the series. Even the minor characters have realistic motivations, such as Komitsubi, who has a short complex and always was jealous of tall people and all the things they could do. And that's because he admired his father, who was brawny and huge, while he inherited his height from his short mother. In a match that he has to face someone who's almost 3 times taller than him and has that advantage, in the process, he realizes his own self-worth and the strength that he has built up by himself that came from hard work, not genetic luck. Another example is Yukimitsu, who is a character who has studied all his life thanks to pressure from his mother, but he always wanted to try sports, since he felt like he was always too busy preparing for the future to actually enjoy his childhood. He had absolutely no talent for it. Weak stamina, hardly even be able to play in the games because he just didn't have the skill to cut it at the level Hiruma needed him to be to consistently play. He comes to terms with his strength, and it actually relies in split-second decisions. He makes the right choice that can make the difference between a win and a loss. And the best part is, there's so many characters to choose from. I wouldn't even be surprised if someone's favorite character wasn't even on the Daemon team, from how much variety there is and so many interesting dynamics that some of them can have. The one downside is, because it's American football, there aren't a lot of women in the series, and the ones that are typically play supporting roles. That's a negative, but if you can get past that, you'll be fine. I'm very certain, though, there's a character for everyone in the series that they will absolutely not be able to get enough of. My point is, even the most obscure character can go through amazing growth. Even the most irredeemable asshole can show some humanity and start to change. There are no black and white characters, not in terms of skin color, because they're all just so well written. They feel like individual people, and you can't help but cheer for them and get excited to see where they'll go, if they'll make it, how they'll get there. And you want to see it. Extra things I love are the fact that there's no ships thrown in your face. I mean, none of them are confirmed for the end. There's only one that's kind of intended to be implied, but even then, you don't have to go for it, because I certainly didn't. The art is fantastic, especially in the middle and later pages. The inspiration is through the roof fantastic, because after reading this series, I felt like I could take on the world. You could feel the crummiest you ever have, and Eyeshield 21 will have you smiling and dreaming again. Whether or not you have the talents, you can do it. You can just do it, guys. And that just about sums up my love for Eyeshield 21. So go read the manga. Don't watch the anime. I know a lot of people prefer watching over reading, but if you do want to take the time to read, you really, really should. It's so much fun and totally worth it. But thank you so much for watching.